are joined by Abuna Abram Abdelmalek of the East Victoria Park Church in Perth, Western Australia, which is called St Mary and Archangel Michael. Abuna, thank you very much for joining us today.
It's a great joy for me.
Was that difficult for the Coptic community to have a constant revolving door of priests coming from the eastern states?
Not having a stable service would affect the community, especially every time they need to schedule in for a service. They would go and hire a church, or they would try to find a place for the liturgies. They prayed the liturgies at their homes, and at one time they prayed at a library, and another time they prayed at St. Barnabas, in an Anglican church in Liturgy, another Anglican church in Liturgy. So it was not easy, but in the same time, it was a great opportunity for the community here to get exposed to different styles of priesthood, to benefit from the fatherhood of them, and to feel like they are not forgotten by the clergy in the eastern states, living in the most isolated capital city in the world, that is Perth. Was a great, of course, endeavor from the priests in Sydney and Melbourne to cater for the small community here in Perth. Around 1980, it was only 26 families.
Okay.
This is when Father Mina Kamel had to leave back to Sydney, and it took them another 7 years to find another priest, and that was through Amba Shnuda as well, who delegated Abuna Theodosius Amba Bshoi, a great blessed monk from Wadi Natrun, from Amba Bshoi monastery, who came in 1987 and helped the community great deal. He was the only priest, and at the time the community was about 60 to 70 families, so he had to travel north and south and everywhere, and also they wanted altogether, the priest and the community, to establish a church. But everyone would want to have a church very close to his house. So first of all, they bought a piece of land at Beachboro, and they wanted that to be a church through the Department of Housing. It was called back then Hons West. But people wanted a church in the north, other people wanted the church in the south of the river. So Abuna Theodosius, because he was a peace-loving man, decided to buy a church just right in the middle of the city to please everyone. And that is the East Victoria Church, St. Mary and Archangel Michael Church. He bought it in 91 with the help of the founding members, and he asked the real estate agent back then, Mr. Shawki Boktor, to buy the church. They prepared the church in 2 weeks only, copticizing the church, having the niche and the altar and the pews and everything, in 2 weeks only, to start praying it on the 22nd of August 91, which is the feast of St. Mary.
Okay.
A side track here, the church was bought on the 17th of July on that year, 1991. And I just discovered that by chance from the plaque on the church. 17th of July is actually my birthday.
All right.
So as if God was preparing, everything to come together on that day. They celebrated the opening of the church, and in 1993, Abuna Theodosius Amba Bshoi decided to go back to Egypt. Monks always love to go back to their monasteries, so he decided to go back to Egypt. The people here really suffered a lot because of his departure, because they loved him very much and he loved them indeed. He stayed in Egypt for a little while, then he went to Scotland, and from Scotland, Pope Shenouda asked him to go and serve Canberra. And in April 1994, he passed on to the heavenly abode. I came to Canberra only 6 months after his departure, so all his memory was still fresh and alive, and that's why I feel like I've met him without actually seeing him. From 1993 till the same year, for 3-4 months, the church again was back to the roster, but Pope Shenouda wanted to come and visit Australia, and he wanted to come and see the church in Perth. So he came in September, but before he came, he asked Abuna Daniel Antoni, Bishop Daniel of St. Shenouda Monastery in New South Wales now. He asked him, go to Perth and prepare for my visit, and it will be only for a very short time, and after that you can go back to Sydney. He said, okay, Sayyidina. And short period in our terminology is a very blessed short period. It can extend for a longer period of time. So from 1993 to 1997, 4th of February 1997, Abuna Daniel Antoni served the community here very well. But let me talk about the peak of the events during that period, which was the visit of His Holiness Pope Shenouda to Perth. He came with a few bishops with him, and he prayed or celebrated the liturgy, the only liturgy in Australia in Perth.
Oh, fantastic.
And he elevated 3 priests in Perth, Abuna Mina Ibrahim from Melbourne, again the late Abuna Mina Ibrahim, Abuna Tadros Sharubim, and a third priest to come to my memory during the talk. And this visit attracted lots and lots of the media here in WA. It was, Perth was a small city.
Small sleepy town.
And for the Pope of the Coptic Orthodox Church to step in foot here in Perth was a great, propaganda for it. It was, again, a very, very much historical moment for all the Copts who attended this celebration. He blessed the church, made a few visits here and there, and then left Abuna Daniel to continue his strife in Perth for another 3 years. Abuna Daniel was and still is a very open-minded monk priest who was always open to the others, accepting others. So he was an instrumental tool to revive the Council of Churches of Western Australia to the point that they consider him a founding member.
Fantastic.
Yes, it started 1954, but slept for a quite long period of time till he came to Perth to serve in Perth, and he revived the Council of Churches. It was called the Conference of Churches back then, and he wanted to be assured of the service here because he knew that he wasn't to continue the service. So he tried to get a permanent priest to serve in the city. So 2:00 in the morning, I received a phone call in Canberra. He did not realize the time difference. Is it Fulan el Fulani? I said, yes, Abuna. Said, okay, I'm asking you to become a priest. I said, oh, what? 2:00, you asking me to become a priest? Look, they told me that in priesthood, you don't seek it and you don't reject it.
That phone call was Abuna Daniel,
yes,
wasn't it?
yes, from Perth. It was 11 o'clock here, and it was 2:00 in Canberra. So I don't have a say in this. Whatever God's will, let it be done. He said, okay, let me talk to your wife. I said, no problems. My wife is Magda, Abuna Daniel. She said, okay, I'm going to say no. Please say no. You sure? Yes, please say no. You save me. So she picked the phone. Yes, Abuna, whatever you see, Abuna. It's a great blessing, Abuna. And here we go. We were on the run for the priesthood to Perth.
Amazing story.
It is. You know what? I was offered so many offers to come to Perth as a geologist because all the oil is and gas here in Perth. But my wife kept saying, no, we don't know anybody there. It is very isolated. All our family is in Sydney. Let us stay in Sydney even if you don't work.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, but when God calls someone, everyone would be happy for the call. So we moved in. First, we went to Egypt for the ordination. Came back on the 4th of January to Perth, and the first baptism was an Australian guy on the 6th of January. Celebrated the Christmas with them, and the first wedding was Samah and Rasha on the 7th of January. So the start was good, baptism and wedding, and that was a great time, of course, and that marks the service of Abuna Daniel. We celebrated him with a very big farewell party on the 4th of February, where he went back to Sydney, and later on he became the bishop of the monastery there. From 1997, in March 1997, we started the service of the second church straight away in Perth.
Wanneroo.
Yes, we started with the help of Fikri Risk at Hillary's Community Hall on 4th of March. I don't know why everything happens in this city happens in March. 4th of March, we started a Bible study in the Hillary's Community Hall. And probably a few months later, maybe in September, we started the service at the St. Mary Magdalene Anglican Church in Heathridge. So it was a Bible study on Tuesday and then weekly liturgy on every Wednesday. And we started deacons meetings and choirs and other activities.
Abuna Abram, thank you very much for joining us today to mark the 50th anniversary of the Coptic Church in Australia.